With anti-Muslim legislation and rallies moving forward in many communities, interfaith leaders are also calling for more local efforts.
Every single week, there's radio hosts who bring on people whose sole purpose is to badmouth the religion of Islam or to talk bad about the Muslim community. And I'm talking about very popular, so-called conservative radio hosts. And the practical effect of that is there's a real hatred that's constantly being whipped.
Group of teens attacked a man, beating him because he looked Muslim. Turns out he's not, but that didn't make the beating and the vulgar vandalism any less painful. WMC Action News 5's Felicia Bolton spoke with the victim. She joins us live in Lakeland. Felicia.
You know, we've been digging on this story all day, and just minutes ago, the Shelby County Sheriff's Office confirms a 16-year-old boy has been arrested, charged with aggravated assault and simple assault, and the brutal beating of this man at these apartments behind me. Educators say it's time to take new measures to protect children.
It's a very unsettled time in the country right now, and those of us who are operating in and around public education need to be especially vigilant.
Paul Galloway is the executive director of the American Advisory Muslim Council, and his group organized this event. His children attend school in the area, and he wants all educators to learn what Special Agent Villafranca has to share.
Because we have an expert who knows how to equip people with information, help them be a harder target, then we figured that it's a great community service to offer to let schools just have a little bit more information on how to protect themselves.
Special Agent Villafranca says every school should have an action plan and know how to respond if the worst happens at their school.
News Channel 9 presents Chattanooga, 1 year later, a special town hall discussion.
What causes someone to do these horrific acts against other people? And I think what we come down to is the common denominator of all this is the words of the Quran and the words of the Prophet. I think the fundamental problem, as far as I'm concerned, is people in the mosque here in the United States, the leaders in the mosque, are not nearly vocal enough, standing up publicly and speaking against these issues.
Mr. Galloway, would like to respond?
Yeah, I would love to respond. When we first met Sheriff Hammond, it was in your office, and it was with the president of the Chattanooga Islamic Center. And at that point, he had not had any substantive contact with you before. Is that correct? In Nashville, where I live, and the organization I work for, we specialize in bringing law enforcement and Muslims together. Just a month ago, I brought 12 mosque leaders to the FBI in Middle Tennessee, and we had a roundtable discussion. I personally give sermons in the mosques in Nashville, and I address these issues. Our organization, every time there's one of these events, immediately brings the community together to condemn it, and we also invite people to come to our sermons, to come to our mosque, invited or uninvited, so they can see what's being preached. I think we have to address both sides, and to be fair, we need more partnership and less divisive rhetoric between law enforcement and the Muslim community so trust can be established and so that people can feel comfortable working together to prevent terrorism.
And Mr. Galloway, I'd like to do a quick follow-up because we often hear about some of the rhetoric and action that might incite more people to react. But is there any evidence of that?
Well, absolutely there's evidence. If you look at the Brexit vote, hate crime skyrocketed immediately after that. You look at the way that one of our presidential candidates is talking about minorities and Muslims in particular. And just last week, in fact, just this morning, a Sikh American is a person from India, wears a turban, has a long beard. Has a horse at a farm, shot execution style. They actually believe it's because people confuse him for being a Muslim. About a month ago, a woman was almost run off the road in a hate crime incident that the FBI is now looking at because she was wearing a headscarf, and she was yelled at and told to go back to her home. The funny thing about that is she's a Caucasian American who became Muslim. Where is she going to go? So I think rhetoric definitely can have an impact, and I think it's very important that we as a community say we are all Americans, and not just in the aftermath of something terrible, but all the time. The hit list that you brought up earlier, many Islamic clerics and scholars that are American are on that list. In fact, in Memphis, one of the most preeminent scholars in America named Yasser Qadhi has been singled out multiple times by Al-Qaeda and by ISIS to be killed. And when you look at the fact that the vast majority of terrorist organizations' victims are actually Muslims, this just reinforces the need to change the conversation to we collectively and not Muslims against the West, which is, I think, the most important point that I would make today is that Americans were Americans, regardless of our faith, regardless of our racial background.
After horrific attacks like the shooting in Orlando, followers of Islam are left to defend their faith.
We want them to see that we're actually making an effort to publicly say we do not support you, whoever you are that's being radical.
Sam Abwalia and Kalima Aziz Rashada tell me violence displayed by the gunman in Orlando is opposite the teachings of Islam.
I do not align myself with their thinkings by even entertaining their doctrine or entertaining their presence, because it doesn't even reflect what I stand for.
Breaking news alert, a pro-immigration and refugee march is growing downtown as it moves through Memphis. Moments ago, the group stopped to pray.
Because if you just sit down and are silent, it'll just run right through. And, you know, to me, I feel like this is possibly a defining moment in our country, and I don't want to sit back and be silent.
Today is about helping the Muslim community understand civics and feel welcome about being engaged in the state legislature.
The compassionate, the merciful.
People have come down from as far as Knoxville, Chattanooga, and Memphis. We even have a group from Dixon that came down. And the idea here is to let the Muslim community know that this is their house too, as much as anyone else's. And we don't think there's a better way than holding a prayer service here. We arranged for guided tours with Q&A with legislative staffers for our students that all go to Islamic parochial schools. And the purpose of that was to help them get more engaged in civics and hopefully explore careers in politics and public service.